simple mercury barometer measures gas by the height of the column of the mercury. And so this is millimeters of mercury. However, there are other ways to measure pressure. It's called a torricelli, which is a torr. There's a Pascal in honor of Pascal. There's kilopascals because pascals are so small that we need 1,000 of them. And atmospheres, ATMs, you maybe have heard a lot in your daily life. And then the last one is what's in your tire pressure. So if you're filling it up for pounds per square inch, that's called a PSI. And so here are our conversions. Okay, so in the questions, it's going to ask you to convert like this to this or this to this. So here are all the different types of conversions. And so now let's do an example here. So pick up your pen or pencil and copy down my example. What if the pressure inside your car tire is 225 kilopascals? Let's change this into atmospheres and then into millimeters of mercury. Okay, so we're going to do two different problems. So the first thing you should always do is write down the pressure that you're given. So it says I have 225 kilopascals, and you want to convert that, right? So we use the multiply in the line, and this is where our conversion goes. So I would need to look up here and say, well, how many kilopascals are in an ATM? Well, that's nice. This is all standardized for one ATM. That's what I'm trying to change to. And I'm trying to get rid of kilopascals, which is here. There are 101.3 kilopascals. So the next step then, my kilopascals are canceling. This is a division problem, right? There's an invisible one here. So this times 1 is 225, and 225 then divided by what's on the bottom of 101.3. There are 3 significant figures here and 4 here, so I can keep 3. So I'm going to round what my calculator gives me to 2.22 atmospheres. Okay, so remember significant figures at the end. I'm rounding. My calculator gave me a whole lot of numbers. I don't need all those, right? And then don't forget your unit. Okay, the next one says, though, also change this into millimeters of mercury. Okay, so I can actually just go from this step. So multiply and align. And I know for every one ATM, right, up here it's standardized by ATMs. I've set it up so my atmospheres are going to cancel. There are 760 millimeters of mercury in the barometer tube for 1 atmosphere. So that cancels. And this time I have a multiplication problem. So now I'm going to multiply that number by 760, and I get 1,688, okay, which I have to round because my original number here only had 3. Since I gave you this number, you don't need to constrict it by 2. This is assuming it's exactly 760 because I gave you these numbers. So let's use this one. So I would round this to 3 significant figures, so that would be 1,690 millimeters of mercury. Okay, so I literally did this. So today, well, not today, the other day, I Googled what is the atmospheric pressure in Amity, and here's what Google gave me over here on the side. And I was like, Google, what is that? 29.98 what? And it literally gives it to you in measured in inches of mercury units. Okay, inches, right? No, we just said that we have mercury units are measured in millimeters or centimeters. So according to Google, the atmospheric pressure is 29.98 inches of millimeter of mercury, which is Hg. That's the chemical symbol. And in order to convert this into metric units, what would I need to change? I would need to convert inches into millimeters, okay, which would I would have to look that up, okay, which I'm going to have you do here on the next section. So I'm going to pause the video and give you a second to attempt to do A, and then unpause when you are done so you can see if it's correct. Okay, so it says convert the pressure into millimeters of mercury. So the first step is always to write down what they gave you. So I'm starting out with 29.98 inches of mercury. Thanks, Google. I didn't need that. So the first step here is to convert inches to centimeters. So I want inches to cancel. So for every 1 inch, there is 2.54 centimeters. So now, after I cancel that step and I multiply, I'll be in centimeters. But it wants millimeters, so I don't have to stop. You can just do another multiply in a line, keep going, and do the next conversion. There are 10 millimeters in every 1 centimeter. So now when I do my math, I'll be in millimeters. So there's an invisible 1 over here, right? So it's really just multiplying, because if I divide by 1 3 times, nothing happens. So in my calculator, I got 29.98 times 2.54 times 10. And so I get 761 with lots of numbers here. My original answer here had 4 decimals, so or 4 significant figures, so I can keep 4. So this will be 0.5, and I'm now in millimeters of mercury. Okay. Again, I recommend that you pause the video and then attempt B on your own, and then press play when you're ready to see the answer. Okay, so I would start with the 761.5 millimeters of mercury for this question, because for our conversions up here, there are no inches, there's only the millimeters. So I'm going to be using this millimeters of mercury to go to atmospheres. So first you write down what you start with, 761.5 millimeters of mercury, and I'm converting that into atmospheres. So the millimeters of mercury has to cancel, so that's going to go on the bottom here. There are 760 millimeters of mercury for every 1 atmosphere. There's an invisible 1 here. So now I can see this is a division problem, because this is on top and this is on bottom. So I have 761.5 divided by 760. So with significant figures, that ends up being 1.002 atmospheres. Okay, again, I would pause the video, attempt C. You should be getting better every time we go. So by E, you should be able to do it correctly without my help. Otherwise, come in for tutoring. Okay, so for C, we're converting to kilopascals. We can just start with the answer we had in the previous question. So if I have 1.002 atmospheres, I need to look up what is the relationship between atmosphere and kilopascals. So up here in my conversions, for every 1 atmosphere, there's 101.3 kilopascals. So that's what I want to use here. I want atmosphere to cancel out. So atmosphere is going to need to be on the bottom. So for every 1 atmosphere, there's 101.3 kilopascals. So now I can simply multiply 1.002 by 101.3. And my calculator gives me too many decimals. I've got 4 here and 4 here, so I can keep 4. So 101 point, that 9 is going to round the 4 up to a 5. So 101.5. The atmospheres cancel, 1 on top, 1 on bottom, so the unit left is kilopascals. Okay, let's have you pause and attempt D. Okay, so for D, we're converting the kilopascals we just had here. So I've got 101.5 kilopascals, and I want to change that into torricelli. So up at the conversions up here, I have to use both kilopascals and torricellis this time. The 1 atmosphere was nice because it was at a 1, but this isn't a 1 to 760, it's 101.3 to 760. So I have to use both those numbers. The kilopascal goes on the bottom. There's 101.3 kilopascals for every 760 torr. So you can also predict, this number is almost the exact same as that number. That's almost a 1, oh, sorry, thank you. Now I can see it. This is almost a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's not going to change this 760 very much.
Why is it?
Yeah, go ahead. Why is what?
Why is it 101.3 at the bottom?
Because the relationship between 760 torrs is 101.3 kilopascals. So we were able to use 1 atmosphere in the past because that's what all these are standardized by, but these two are not 1. Okay, so now you have both a multiplication, so the 2 things on top divided by the thing on the bottom. So since this becomes a ratio, I'm going to take 101.5 and divide it by 101.3, and then multiply by 760. You could have done it in the other order, get the same answer. but this gives you 761.5. The kilopascals cancel out and you're left with torr. Okay, last one. Go ahead and pause and attempt E. Okay, E says, convert the pressure into pounds force per square inch, which is the PSI rating, which is in like your tire. So I'm going to take 761.5 torrs, and I'm going to convert that to PSI. So I have to go up to the top and see what is the relationship between torr and PSI. So I know that those are going to go there because I want torr to cancel to PSI. So it says up here that there's 760 torrs in every 14.7 PSI. So that's what I'm going to use here. So for every 760 torrs, there's 14.7 PSI. Again, I can see that this is almost 1, right? Like those are really close. So this number we would expect to be still around 14. So I've got 761.5. You can multiply by 14.7 first and then divide by 760, or divide and multiply, same answer. And here I've got 4 significant figures and 3, so let's keep the 3. Oh look, it ends up like not even changing it. So 14 point, I mean we could just for fun keep the 3, I guess. The torrs go away. Okay, thanks for watching this video. Make sure that you complete the activity on Google Classroom that goes along with 7.2, and email me with any questions.